thank you so much, friends, and thanks, Sharon, for that very warm welcome. I begin by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land on which we meet and pay my respect to their elders, past, present and emerging. I give a shout out to my parliamentary colleagues, not just Sharon, but importantly Catherine King, also from the great region of Ballarat, our Shadow Infrastructure and Transport Minister, Pat Conroy, our neighbour just to the south, and to two future Labor members who will be outstanding, Dan Rapicoli in Hunter, big shout out for Dan, and of course Dr Gordon Reid, who I'm up here for a few days. Tomorrow I was speaking with Gordon yesterday, and we're trying to work out some times. He's a bit busy. He's got to work in emergency department at Wyong Hospital tomorrow, and I think it is fantastic that he is going to join our parliamentary team after the next election. So to Dan and to Gordon, best of luck to both of you. To my state parliamentary colleagues who are here as well, and to your worship and others, congratulations on the outstanding result here in the local government elections. And friends, one and all, including friends from the mighty trade union movement, it is great to be back here in the Hunter, including a great trade unionist and Vice President of the party, Michelle Myers, who's here with us as well, a great Novocastrian as well, even though she now lives in the equally great electorate of Greenland, it must be said. To declare an interest, we have much in common in terms of our people. Well, Happy New Year to you all. Now is the time for sharing resolutions. And this year, I have three. First, to win this election. Second is, of course, to lead a Labor government that focuses on creating a better future and brings the country back together. And thirdly, to bring respect and integrity and responsibility back to politics. As we start a new year, we can agree that the last 2 years have challenged us in ways that no one could have possibly imagined. And yet, through all the upheaval, Australians have been and continue to be simply magnificent, unselfish and calm, caring and brave. But if the last 2 years have shown us the strength of our society and our community, they have also revealed the vulnerabilities of our economy and the fundamental flaws in the judgment and the character of Scott Morrison. Governments have a responsibility to learn from this crisis, to respond to what the pandemic put into the spotlight, the brutal truth about the state of aged care, the inequalities in our health system, the harsh reality of insecure work and jobs that disappear without warning, the inequalities and disrespect women face at work and at home, in public or in private, the gaps in Australia's skills base caused by years of cuts to TAFE and apprenticeships, and the relentless grind of flatlining wages. We need a plan to build back stronger, to build an economy that works for people, not the other way around, with rising wages, secure jobs, safe workplaces, more apprenticeships, and opportunities for all Australians. A plan for a better life for working families, one that invests in the services that mark a decent society: childcare for when you're growing up, Medicare if you get sick, and aged care when you grow old, and the right to a roof over your head, because I know that affordable housing changes lives. It changed mine. Above all, Australia needs a government that believes in people and invests in their potential. A government that backs communities like this one, that builds on your strengths, your skills, and that rewards your energy and ideas. That's what I'm here to talk about today, my vision for a better future for Australia, and Labor's plan for a stronger, fairer and more diverse economy. But of course, the fundamental starting point is this. If we want to put the current crisis behind us, if we want to address insecure work and wage suppression and cuts to penalty rates, if we want to do better on childcare, if we want to stop the attacks on TAFE and unions and teachers and universities and the arts, if we want to make women's safety a national priority, if we want to move past cynical culture wars and a leader who pits states against each other, if we want a government that steps up when times are tough, not one that steps back, if we want to put years of failures and scandals and rorts and waste and blame shifting and buck passing and smirking contempt behind us, then Australia needs to put Scott Morrison and his government behind us. Yeah. And with your help, we can do just that. We can bring Australians together with a Labor government that knows we are so much more than a collection of states. We're a dynamic nation that is stronger when we work together, when we pull together. That's how you can move forward together. Of course, to move forward, we do need to get through the current health crisis. The Omicron outbreak continues to have a devastating impact on your local community here in the Hunter. Following on from the Morrison government's failure to secure a supply of vaccines because they said it's not a race, and their failure to construct purpose-built quarantine because it wasn't their job, it is beyond comprehension that the same mistakes are being made on the rollout of booster shots. The same mistakes are being made in aged care. The same mistakes are being made in disability care. The same mistakes are being made in testing capacity, and they're not even pretending to play a role in securing a supply of rapid antigen tests. Through the response to the pandemic, the Hunter and the Central Coast were treated with disdain by this arrogant and dismissive government. Whether it was the transfer of vaccines meant for this region to Sydney, despite COVID being present in this community, or making it impossible for people to access COVID testing, this government's contempt for the people of this region has been on full display, as have the priorities of a Prime Minister, who in a rare act of transparency on funding allocations made it clear that if you can't help him, he won't help you. Instead of bringing Australians together around our common interest, this Prime Minister seeks to divide, and he never, ever, ever accepts responsibility. We have 5 important tools to manage the pandemic response: vaccination, testing, tracing, isolation and quarantine. On every single measure, from, remember the COVID Safe app, that debacle, to the vaccine rollout, to boosters, and now rapid antigen tests, Scott Morrison has been defined by a lack of leadership. It all highlights why only a change of government will prioritise the immediate needs of this region and set about creating a better future. The support of the diabolical PEP 11 project off this beautiful coast that we're benefiting from today was only withdrawn reluctantly after a massive local campaign by the community, and I congratulate your community on that victory. This community knows how to fight, and there's been a similar strong community campaign led by local MPs, state and federal, and candidates against the Morrison government's refusal to save your local GP access after hours service that closed on Christmas Eve of all days, and its refusal to stop cuts to hours at other clinics. Now, these reckless acts will add to health inequality, and they wouldn't happen. You all know that if it was the North Shore of Sydney or if it was in the Sutherland Shire. Today I announce that a Labor government will save your local GP access after hours service. Labor will restore this funding to ensure that your community can access the healthcare that you deserve. That is central to Labor's commitment to strengthen Medicare. It's one of the great divides in values in Australian politics. Labor believes in Medicare. We believe you should get healthcare when you need it. The other side essentially don't, which is why you had changes as well to the schedule come in again at inopportune times just before Christmas. Labor's plans for Newcastle and the Hunter will also centre on infrastructure, not just because I'm an infrastructure nerd. We know that good infrastructure serves communities. It creates secure, well-paid local jobs, and it connects your region to the national economy. Labor knows it because we've built it. Whether it was the transformation of the Honeysuckle precinct just down the road here through Brian Howe's Better Cities program, to more recently building the Hunter Expressway, talked about by the Howard government, never built, not a millimetre of it, or the Minimba to Maitland third rail line that lifted up productivity to the port. Only Labor has provided the investment that this region needs. A new Labor government will back the Glendale interchange, helping to turn northwest Lake Macquarie into a new employment super hub. This is a great project. It will unlock investment and opportunity across the Lower Hunter, creating 3,800 new jobs and spurring the construction of 2,700 new residences. The Liberals have spent 8 years standing in the way of this opportunity. In fact, their first budget cut funding for an earlier stage of this critical project. Now, despite the very high benefit to cost analysis, it must have been the wrong colour on the colour-coded spreadsheet that they used to rort public funding for projects. Because how you could cut funding for a project that had double-digit benefit for every dollar invested is just extraordinary. And we all know that even if they suddenly pretend to discover this project and support it in the lead up to the election, they'll never deliver it. You can take Labor's commitment to the bank. Now, I had the privilege of serving as Australia's first ever Minister for Infrastructure. As Federal Infrastructure Minister, I built and upgraded 7,500 kilometres of road. We fully rebuilt, 1/3 of the interstate rail freight network. And we committed more funding to urban rail infrastructure than all our predecessors combined from Federation right through to 2007. And if I'm elected Prime Minister, I want ours to be the first government that actually gets work underway on high-speed rail. My vision is for high-speed rail that runs from Brisbane to Melbourne, creating jobs and connecting communities up and down the east coast of Australia, overcoming the tyranny of distance that's held regions back. We've already outlined how our new high-speed rail authority will kickstart this nation-building project by updating the business case and building on Labor's work from when we were last in government. The incoming Abbott government cut the funding for the High-Speed Rail Authority in their 2014 budget, walked away from any visionary project. And today I'm proud to announce that under our Labor government, the High-Speed Rail Authority will make the corridor from Newcastle to Sydney, which includes stops at the Central Coast, our first priority. Phase 2 study, which reported in 2013, identified this corridor as the first component of an eventual line to Brisbane. I appointed a high-level committee to manage the study. Now, unlike this government, I didn't appoint just a bunch of mates and failed Liberal former MPs. I appointed a body that was an attempt to try to entrench going forward, because it is, by definition, a project that can't be done in a single term of government. So that included the former Deputy Prime Minister, the late Tim Fischer, a serious advocate for high-speed rail. It included showing the economics stack up, the head of the Business Council of Australia, Jennifer Westacott. It included the Rail, Tram and Bus Union. It included a representative group to try and entrench this project, but still the government walked away from it. We'll put it back on track. Faster rail would see a major benefit with travel times from Newcastle to Sydney cut to just 2 hours. And once high-speed rail is up and running, this journey would take only 45 minutes. Imagine being able to jump on the train at 6:30 and be at Sydney Olympic Park for the start of the night's game. It will make the region more connected, giving business opportunities for closer collaboration and integration, as well as an incentive for people looking to relocate to the region. It will bring economic benefits to local industries like tourism and hospitality. And high-speed rail is a game changer for workers commuting to Sydney. Of course, investing in rail infrastructure doesn't stop at the end of the line. The trains that run on the tracks should be made in Australia too. Now, for decades, the Hunter, this great region, made trains for Sydney and the New South Wales network. The Tangaras, still running. Then the state Liberal government turned their back on workers here and decided to buy trains from overseas. Not because it was cheaper, but because the Liberals don't believe in local industry and they never support local workers or skills. Now, the previous Liberal New South Wales Premier in that revolving door of Macquarie Street declared that workers in this great state are no good at building trains. And yet, when those overseas built trains and trams keep breaking down, they can't be sent back for repairs or replacement. Instead, it's the workers here in the Hunter who have to pick up the pieces. When Liberal governments have purchased trains and other transport infrastructure from overseas at the expense of local industry, it has resulted in massive cost blowouts and infrastructure that is simply not fit for purpose. But worse than that, it's a wasted opportunity. It's a waste of people's potential. It's a waste of the chance to back the skills and smarts and hard work of Australians. A Labor government won't make that mistake. Our National Rail Manufacturing Plan will mean that trains should be built here again. Our Buy Australian plan will mean the same priority will be applied wherever the federal government is engaged. And that's because Labor believes in Australian workers and we trust Australian skills. And in everything, from infrastructure and manufacturing and energy and innovation, we will champion a future made right here in Australia. Now, I've chosen to start the year here in the Hunter, not just because this is perhaps, I don't think perhaps, I'm going to just declare this is the best venue that any Labor leader has ever given a speech in, I've got to say. And I thank the Hunter for turning on such an amazing day here in Newcastle. Because I believe that this community represents the resilience and the resourcefulness of Australia. I have a very close relationship here, and as Sharon said, some of you mightn't even be aware that when I was the Young Labor representative at the ALP National Conference, Triple J exists because of a resolution passed by Newcastle Young Labor Association that went up through the system. It began right here, and I have decades of coming here, and I love the people and I love the spirit that is here, the spirit that's recovered from the BHP loss, from the earthquake, from everything else. There is so much that the Hunter can teach us about adaptation and change and reconstruction and innovation. and the resilience of working class people and the values of working class people. Yet for too long, Liberals in Sydney and Canberra have treated the hunter as a difficult question to be ignored, a challenge to be avoided, or a cost to cut. We see that with the University of Newcastle smashed by job losses, childcare fees going up while wages flatline, retail and hospitality workers suffering from 4.5 years of cuts to penalty rates, and the ever-growing pressure on doctors and healthcare workers. Families here feel that it's harder and more expensive to see a GP than it was the last time Labor was in government. Families in the region have been hit with the triple whammy of losing its classification as an area of doctor shortage, having the bulk billing incentive cut, and now the outrageous attack on the GP access after-hours service. Labor built Medicare, and you can trust us to fix this mess. Labor believes your region deserves the same investment, the same commitment, the same support for health and education and jobs and skills as every other part of the nation. We also appreciate that your community is the home of opportunities to be seized and an example for our country to follow. Labor's National Reconstruction Fund is designed to help industries and communities across the country invest in new technologies that will drive our future, to invest in new jobs, to boost productivity, to back good ideas and to champion emerging industries. And on so many of those fronts, the hunter is already leading the way. When BHP left town, you didn't drop your bundle. You didn't give up hope. You refused to let the skills and smarts and strengths of your workers wither on the vine. Instead, you diversified, you adapted, you trusted that the very things which had made you leaders in one field could bring you success in another. Well, I believe that government has a role to play in nurturing great ideas, supporting good jobs, and helping our regions and communities respond to economic change and thrive through it. My opponent thinks if government just gets out of the way, the market will just sort it all out. We know from experience that's not true. There are so many examples of world-class innovation right here that could reach even greater heights with a government that supported science, innovation and advanced manufacturing, like MCI, which is trialling a new technology developed at the University of Newcastle that transforms captured carbon dioxide emissions into carbonate rock that can be used in building materials. Or 3ME technology, which is working to electrify heavy vehicles used in mining, replacing diesel engines with its cutting-edge battery electric systems. A Labor government will value great ideas and good jobs, will help our communities through economic change. No one held back, no one left behind. It's the Labor way. We're now in the third year of the third decade of the 21st century. And to tell it straight, no honest leader can promise to turn back the clock on economic change, on energy, on anything. No true leader can come here and pretend that a few empty words will shake and bake, whatever that means, things back to how they used to be. The real test of leadership is twofold. One, to tell the truth about change. And two, to help people and communities make change that benefits them. That's the foundation of powering Australia. Labor's plan to meet the challenge of climate change and seize the opportunity to become a renewable energy superpower. Our plan is comprehensive and fully costed. It will save families an average $275 a year on power bills. It will create over 600,000 jobs. And communities like Hunter are at the heart of it. We respect the contribution that coal miners of the Hunter make to Australia's national success. We know it is always hard work, and we know that too often it is also dangerous work. And for as long as there is a Labor Party, we will fight to ensure that it is fairly paid work with decent conditions, including cutting through the complicated mess of labour hire agreements with a straightforward rule that I've put into a private member's bill that's in the Parliament right now. Same job, same pay. Very simple principle, effective, coal miners and other workers throughout our economy. Our Powering Australia plan recognises that for decades, the workers and businesses of the Hunter have been central to the prosperity of the country's entire energy sector. Coal and coal workers continue to be an important part of your economy and community, but there are opportunities to diversify the products that you export and sell. The energy mix of this region of our whole country will change. That's the simple, inescapable reality of trading on a global market. Decisions get made in boardrooms in Beijing, New York and Tokyo that directly affect us here. But it's also the opportunity in front of us now, if you have a government with a plan and with the foresight to help you seize it. Just look at the way Liddell is being transformed into a solar and hydro power hub, taking up a new lease on economic and environmental life. That shouldn't be an exception or a lucky product of a good business doing the right thing. Is a core responsibility for any government. 90%, think about this, 90% of the world's solar cells are based on technology developed in Australia, right here. But the Liberals' opposition to renewables meant that Australia failed to commercialise that scientific innovation. We failed to seize the jobs. Most of the solar panels on people's roofs are imported. Australian innovation, and often Australian products and resources going into the construction of them. What a wasted opportunity. A Labor government will partner with you to grab the opportunities that are in front of us. We'll back you and shape a prosperous future together. The Hunter will continue to be a centre for innovation, ideas and entrepreneurship. But the Liberals and Nationals have no plan for this region, no faith in its people, no sense of the potential and possibility of this community. They can't shape the future because they're scared of the present, and they can't see beyond the next photo opportunity. In 2002, the choice facing Australians is more clear and more important than ever before. And I will be saying this to Australians, not just on the first days of this year, but right up every day before the election. Do you believe that this tired, divided, say anything, do nothing government deserves a second decade in power? Does anyone think that they'll get better with another 3 years in office? Or do you believe the country needs and deserves a change? The safe change that my team are offering. My team and I are seeking renewal, not revolution, because our plans for change are not about tearing down everything that has gone before, but rather about building up the enduring values which make this a great country and the Hunter and the Central Coast great regions. Our policies are based on the best qualities of the Australian people. Their Labor values, compassion, decency, hard work and a fair go. No one held back and no one left behind. And our approach will restore respect and humility and decency and accountability to political life, underwritten by a National Anti-Corruption Commission. For far too long, the Liberals have treated politics as a chance to rort public money and make their mates rich. For too long, our country has suffered a Prime Minister who thinks his most important job is finding someone else to blame for his failures. For too long, the Australian people have been let down by a government that repays their courage with cowardice, that meets their generosity with cold-heartedness. Remember the shaking of hands down in the South Coast for people who've been devastated by the bushfires when the Prime Minister went missing. This is a government that attacks their aspirations for the future with cynical scare campaigns. For too long, this government has held our country back. In 2022, we have a chance to change all that. It is a mighty task, and I ask you to join with me. A great responsibility to return our Labor members here and have them joined by a new member for Robertson, who stands up for his local community, by a new member for the Hunter, joining the members for Paterson and Dobell and Shortland and, of course, Newcastle. We can get it done. We have the opportunity to look after this and future generations. We have a chance to make history, but above all, we have a chance to build a better future. I intend to work each and every day to turn that opportunity into a reality, and I thank you for the launch of the 2022 campaign that will go on each and every day between now and election day. Whether it's March or May, we need to put this government behind us because Australia and this region deserve a better future. Thanks very much.